Nancy Fraser's three-dimensional model outlines the position of social justice for schooling. The three-dimensional model is the distributive understanding of justice, focusing upon equity within schooling policy and practice. This focus is upon pursuing social justice, particularly given that schools continue to perpetuate class disadvantage through the inequitable distribution of education's material benefits. The three dimensions are redistribution, equitable redistribution of curriculum to all students, intellectual and monetary, recognition of marginalized groups, valuing cultural knowledge to counter dominant cultures, representation, decision making at school level, and inclusive community partnerships. Literacy as a social practice is an approach to analyze how literacy is shaped and constructed in schools. It is an approach that allows for the analysis of the selective traditions of school literacy. It is an analysis of those practices and how they contribute to the marginalization of students on the basis of their gender, cultural, linguistic, and social class background. The principal aim of multiliteracies is to enhance students' capacities to design social futures, to forge self-determining agentive pathways through text and discourse, based on communities and economies and the cultural and linguistic diversity of modern society. The pedagogical tensions and challenges for educators lie in the models of delivery and transmission of knowledge and literacy skills. The challenge of including cultural and linguistic diversity into the modes and techniques of communication and teaching requires critical thinking concerning student access to the curriculum in the classroom and in the community. The challenge for educators also is the critical thinking and multiplicity of student needs concerning education to enable educators to uncover the diversity in literacy learning which remain buried in the dominant structures and texts in educational workplaces. A pedagogy of multiliteracies presents a powerful redefinition of texts and practices, moving the field from literacy to literacies, through recognizing multiple ways of communicating and making meaning. By incorporating new technologies and building a meta-language, educators expanded access to the curriculum, allowing students to explore new forms of literacy. Hill 2010 discovered writing was transformed to a memory tool, recording, student planning, designing, and recording of information. The design element, component, and description of the approach within this table define the student's control and use of language in literacy. When utilizing this approach, Hill discovered that teachers became inquirers into the literacies of their children's worlds. In turn, children became informants about their participation in the social practices of literacy. The four-resource model is a framework to assist educators' understandings of reading and literacy. It positions the learner centrally as an agent of literacy learning. The four resource areas assign roles and cognitive practices for students as they develop their ability to read. Adopted by many educational communities, the four-resource model depicts the student as a learner of literacy and reading, utilizing a set of resources in their social learning to make sense of their world. The model remains vital as a tool for social literacy learning. It counteracts the dominant structures of literacy learning, utilizing the resources available to the learner in a reciprocal relationship with the chosen text. The resources approach of the model allows for a multiplicity of approaches focusing on the child's social literacy resources rather than a text that imposes upon a child. The model provides an inclusive, accessible framework for educators to make decisions concerning pedagogy and student engagement with literacy learning. To expand further upon the four-resource model to embrace contemporary multiliteracy practices, Serafini, 2012, reconceptualized the four resources to navigator, interpreter, designer, and interrogator. Serafini seeks to include all the four resources across the reconceptualization, as well as connect a range of modalities involved in literacy learning and reading. Unlike the four resource model, there is no hierarchy of resources. The resources are accessed through social literacy practice, utilizing the resource required for the modality of the task or a student's need to make meaning in a multi-literacies environment. As a model of technology integration, SAMR or SAMR has been used as a model to support literacy learning. SAMR offers teachers opportunities to demonstrate technology enhancing instruction to transform learning and embrace the outside world. The model enhances or transforms the text or the function of the learning. It supports agentive meaning making and expands on curriculum and pedagogy restraints. As a model to utilize with students, the SAMR allows students to enhance and transform the meaning making through technology, connecting and accessing online and global resources. Alan Luke 2000 notes Freire's view that literacy education can generate tools and conditions for people to reposition themselves in relation to economies, cultures, and dominant ideologies. Practically, this translates into a classroom focus on critique, problem solving, and the production of a broad range of texts. By approaching the issue of schooling from a critical thinking perspective, the redistribution, recognition, and representation of diversity in communities is in the hands of educators, with social justice at the forefront of every classroom, every lesson, and every day. When connecting the philosophies, approaches, and models that encompass social justice in education, the role of the child remains central. In the Reggio Emilia philosophies and experience, this also rings true. The Reggio Emilia experience is connected to community and embraces a democratic approach to education and learning, embracing community as a shared experience. The ideal of the 100 languages of a child is one where social literacy learning is embraced and heard with diversity at its core. In conclusion, the approaches, theories, and frameworks that concern literacy as a social practice are all part of the complex journey of social justice in education. As educators and school leaders, it is our critical thinking approaches that will ensure greater equity and equality in the distribution of educational resources, as well as the representation of marginalized and diverse groups in society to gain equality in educational outcomes.